and Indigenous youth who've been really generous in sharing knowledge and teachings over the years to help me to learn how to walk in a good way. One thing also not included in my bio is that I'm a mama, and so proud and grateful to have my oldest firstborn here with me to introduce themselves in a moment. Before I do that, just like to also add that my pronouns are she, her, they, them, and yeah, just really grateful to each of you to make time to show up today and be a part of our collective story harvest.
Thank you so much, Ublimi, and thank you, Moria, for giving us that warm welcome. I'm really grateful to be here today on the territories of the Kongan-speaking peoples, the Esquimalt and Songhees nations. It's a beautiful day, and it's an honor to be here with all of you again for another year's workshops. Yeah, to those of you who are joining us new, welcome. I look forward to getting to know a little bit about all of you. And all of those of you who are returning, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Good to be here in shared space. Um, yeah.
Awesome. Let's do that. So welcome to our collective story harvest. We're offering two versions today. This morning, I'm going to be hosting Raven, and they'll be the storyteller. And this afternoon's version of the workshop, they will be hosting, and I will be the storyteller. And today's intention is to reclaim narratives of safety through storytelling, using collective story harvesting. We'll explore ancestral tools of circle and storytelling and other practices that can nurture forgiveness of ourselves and each other. Elements of circle will be used. We'll be using intentions, agreements, and a checkout. So some time to create a little bit of that relational to co-create a learning and sharing environment. Pictured here is a picture from the North Shore. Lily Yumagolova invited me to participate last year in this cultural work as a legacy project through the funding that Emergency Management and Climate Readiness offers for cultural safety and humility, a funding envelope that I designed using the First Nations Health Authority policy statement on cultural safety and humility. The North Shore, in partnership with Tsleil-Waututh Nation, secured funding for that and spent a series of months having local authorities, firefighters, carve paddles, receive teachings from the nations, and then it culminated in a coming ashore protocol. And so I wanted to include this image here and some images from this experience because I found it as a paradigm shift in myself being an Inuk coming here first by ferry. We didn't have this protocol of coming ashore to the lands, and to experience it made a real paradigm shift within myself about how to approach the lands, how to approach the nations. So I wanted to share a little bit of that experience through the imagery today. So here you can see the Tsleil-Waututh Nation at the shore. We're in our boats all paddling together. And so we'll start this journey together. In terms of our time together and the flow, we are going to be co-creating a learning and sharing environment by offering some agreements for our time together. If you've been in any of my workshops or meetings, you'll know this is something that I love to do. We'll also ground a little bit in the big picture. Why is this important? As well as go through the flow of the collective story harvest process. Then we'll move into the storytelling, hearing from Raven, a little bit, just a moment or two around integrating that integration, and then a checkout to transition from our intentional space to back to the everyday ordinary, and shout out to folks who are up in the north. So wonderful that you can join us as well. All right. So agreements are something, in like team meetings or things like that, they might do at the beginning of a team year. They'll write them on a big paper and then type them up, save them on their network drive, and then maybe revisit them in a year's time or something. So this is a little bit of a shift in how to use agreements to make that time when we come together in meetings, just to ask, how do we want to show up for ourselves and each other? Are there any intentions or agreements you like to offer? And I came through this through my time at the Circle Way, where we have agreements like an invitation to listen with curiosity and compassion, with discernment rather than judgment. So it's not about being right or wrong, bad or good. There's lots of different ways of being and seeing the world. I'm happy to hear a little bit of that too from Elaine Alec a few moments ago in her powerful keynote talk. So much resonated there. Another one is take what you need, offer what you can. And that also takes any hierarchy that exists, puts it on its side, and recognizes shared leadership. So a leader in every chair or screen here. Another is confidentiality, or when I shared with Indigenous youth, got recoined as the Las Vegas rules. So what's said in the circle stays in the circle, those personal stories. We leave those behind and the teachings we take away. And if you do feel called to share someone's story, that's perhaps not your own, just to leave out their names. And that way it can help to maintain confidentiality and prevent any unintended lateral violence or gossiping. And so I started sharing these with Indigenous youth, and they started making up their own, like, belief in good intentions, belief in the basic goodness in people. And I found with that power of repetition and making that time at the beginning of meetings to ask this and hearing these agreements over again, like belief in good intentions, it started to make internal shifts within my own self. When my partner used to try to be helpful without communicating, I would often get frustrated, project my own inner criticisms, like, do they think I'm not good enough? And whatnot. And then with that agreement, belief in good intentions, I started taking a breath in those moments when I could see they're trying to be helpful, not communicate, ground in belief in good intentions, and then ask, are you trying to be helpful right now? And invariably they would say yes. I'd be like, okay, thank you. Let's have some open dialogue about that. So with that, I've offered some agreements on the screen here. Another one is agreeing from time to time to pause. So a little bit of a culture shift from silence being something that's awkward to it can be a powerful tool to reground, recenter, and we can show respect for each other by honoring each other's words with silence. And so what I found with this, we were creating a calling in culture, asking for what we needed in strength-based ways. So with that, I'd like just to open it up and to co-create with each of you and Raven. If there's an agreement that you would like to offer for our time together, you could do this by putting it in the chat, or you can see we've got Slido open. So there's a QR code. If you grab your phone, open the camera feature, point it at the screen, a yellow bar will come up and you can click on that. Alternatively, you can go to slido.com and enter in the code 2238277 to join. So maybe while we give people a chance to think about an agreement or an intention they'd like to offer for our time together, maybe I'll just see, Raven, if there's an agreement you'd like to offer for today.
Perhaps. Existence implies belonging.
Wow, existence implies belonging.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
if you're here, if you're in the shared space, you belong. I want to offer that to all of us, that we're all relatives, and it's something we sometimes forget in this world and society, is that if we are here, if a person exists, it's because we belong, we are part of this web of life, and to exist, the implications of it, we've grown up alongside each other since the very beginning of time.
Beautiful. Thanks, Raven. So you'll see a word cloud is starting to appear, and I entered yours in there. And if there's an agreement on the screen that really resonates with you, you could enter it in again. Or if there's something not there yet that you would like to add, you could do that too. So we have curiosity, humility. One of the ways we can create safety is by practicing humility, open heart, open mind, meet people where they're at. I think that's such an important one on this journey, learning and journey practice of reconciliation. You know, we're all in different places. It's non-linear, and we're born into each of our own lineages. So, you know, we have to just meet people where they're at. A safe learning space. Yes, wonderful. We can do that by practicing humility, interest to grow and expand. Love that. Transparent attention. Beautiful. Authenticity. Love it. Joy, bringing joy in. Active listening. Beautiful. Vulnerability. I love it. No bogarting the conversation. I don't know what that means.
I also don't know what that means.
But that's okay. We won't do that. Dialogue, unlearning, yes, that unlearning and undoing those parts of colonialism that we unconsciously just pick up through being in it. Quiet yourself to hear. Wonderful. Being present, remembering trauma is sacred. Yeah, beautiful. And then I see, oh, bogarting the meaning means taking it over, essentially. Okay, thanks. All right, yeah, we'll share space. So I like to always invite in circle. If you're someone who tends to have your hand up and has something to say, you know, maybe that leaning back, making a little bit of space for others. And if you're like my younger self, who would be leaning back and quiet, and that invitation to lean into that courageous space and share what's in your heart and mind. So making room for everyone. Thanks for that explanation. All right, so I'm curious how these are landing. I don't know if we have emoticons available in our Zoom land here. If you, hopefully these are resonating with you. I'm so grateful we haven't had to offer patients with technology, but I'll put that out there right now. And then I also see here truth, which is so important. Part of this work is truth telling, and it can contribute to that collective healing and provide hope for us. So yeah, so now we've created this foundation to create a calling in culture. We can offer agreements anytime. Like if the tech was going sideways, that's I'll pop in the chat. I like to offer an agreement of patience with technology, and it can kind of just help the tension in the room ease. So anytime we can add an agreement in the chat to ask for what we need and offer what we can. And maybe as a way just to help us embody these agreements, we can just take a moment to ground ourselves in them. So we'll put both feet on the ground, could put your hands on your lap, feel that connection to Mother Earth, the energy coming up through your feet, up through your legs, through your sit bones, feeling them connected to a chair, tilting your pelvic bone forward, raising your shoulders, rolling them back, imagining a thread pulling your head tall. You could have a soft tuck of the chin, your eyes closed, or a soft gaze forward, whatever feels most comfortable to you. And just start to bring awareness to your breath, noticing your inhale and your exhale. Just offer a moment to be present, letting go of whatever was happening earlier on today, maybe happening later on, or things happening around you. Just coming back to your breath, noticing your inhale and your exhale. And just take a moment to notice the air on your face, that space above your head, being really present. Again, coming back to your breath. A nice inhale and exhale. And just offer gratitude to the lands that each of us are on across Turtle Island. Gratitude to the nations who've been stewards of the lands that each of us are on. And just ask that their ancestors and all of our ancestors support us in doing good work together. All my relations. All right. So some of you might be wondering, like, when is the learning going to happen? Let's get into it. And this is part of it. It's that taking that time for the relational. Really, in the long run, can save a lot of time because we're, creating those relations. And then when things get bumpy, we have a nice solid foundation to study ourselves on. So before we move into the collective story harvest, just a little bit about that big picture. Why is this important? I think we have a sense after the keynote, but just wanted to acknowledge some of that here. Canada, has acknowledged domestic violence as an epidemic. Gender-based violence as epidemic since 2019, and this came after the release of the Reclaiming Power and Place recommendations from the final report on missing and murdered Indigenous women, which includes 231 calls to justice for governments, institutions, social service providers, industries, and all Canadians, each and every one of us. And just want to take a moment to acknowledge that gender-based violence impacts so many of us. Over 50% of women have experienced some sort of abuse or violence. And if you're an Indigenous woman, you're 6 times more likely to experience violence. And if you are LGBTQIA, you are also likely 2 times more, and two-spirit, more likely to experience violence than a heterosexual individual. So, just want to acknowledge that. And if any time you need to step away to take care of your heart, your spirit, go outside, have a breath of fresh air, a drink of water, or do any of those kind of grounding techniques like the tapping or the counting down the 5 senses. We invite you to do whatever you need to do to take care of your spirit. Anything to add before I go on here?
I just want to mention some people often in society nowadays, we talk about regulating ourselves. And part of that I want to acknowledge is that rage and grief are really sacred, and that we can acknowledge and make belonging of our grief and of our rage, of the strength of our feelings, and be mindful of not to cause harm to ourselves or anyone through that process best we can. A harm reduction process is useful, but I do want to acknowledge that, and as well, something I have found is upregulating for myself. Sometimes you just need to really get that energy out and process it in some way, vocalize it to get it out, where society or the world might say just downregulate, make yourself smaller or quieter, and that's not always helpful for everyone, right? Sometimes we need to get bigger and get louder and take up that space to feel, to be. So yeah.
Awesome. I find the ocean can be a good place for that.
Yeah,
Or on top of a hill.
totally. The land and the water hold so much space and in such a profound way that other humans can't always do, right? Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Raven. All right, so now we're going to move into the collective story harvesting, and just like to acknowledge the origins comes from the Art of Hosting, which is the organization that has a whole wonderful slew of tools. I highly encourage you to check it out if you're looking at different ways of engaging and being with humans. Collective story harvesting is one of those tools that comes out of the Art of Hosting, and it's something that I've been using for, I can't believe it's been 13 years now. Basically, the collective story harvest is a process where we share stories and then we listen with intentional lenses. And then we are invited to share some of what we've heard based on the lens that we are listening with. And then at the end, we'll hear back from the storyteller on that experience. So collective story harvesting can really help us to deeply connect with and learn from experiences within our community, our teams, and our organizations. It helps us to build our capacity for targeted listening and group learning, and it helps to create collective meaning making. And it helps to it creates space to help surface insights, innovations, those ahas that can exist beneath the surface of a story and help take us to deeper learning. In terms of some of the strengths of the process, it's really great for dealing with complex realities. It can help bring some simplicity as well to surface that understanding and to learn from that complexity. It's a tool for harvesting our current reality of how did we get to where we are now and where do we want to go. It can create a rich learning field and a strong connection and a shared understanding between those involved in the process. So it can be a really simple and a powerful tool to be used regularly to take stock, to capture learning, and refocus the field. And you'll know I am doing a little bit of reading from the screen just to acknowledge some learners are auditory, some are visual, and some are kinetic, and some are some combination of that. So another thing, so things you can use collective story harvesting for, you can use it for applied learning. I've used it to teach nonviolent communication as instead of kind of a PowerPoint blah, 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 A to B. Instead, it helps to surface that learning from within. You can use it for team building, strategy sessions, collective learning, a new field of work or practice, or a project life cycle throughout the life of it. So there's lots of different applications, and including my favorite is it's a great alternative to having a panel discussion. You could have a collective story harvest. So today we are going to be hearing from Raven, some of their own story around ending gender-based violence within their own life. And I'm going to offer 4 theme captures today to listen. So if one of these really, I'll go through them, I'll have them up again. And if one really resonates with you or challenges you, invite you to maybe pick that lens. Or perhaps you might want to just have an open listening lens, your own lens, whatever feels best to you. So the first theme capture is listening for moments of managing one's own thoughts and feelings when challenged, looking at differences as opportunities and not threats. What feelings arose? What did you see, feel, or hear? The second theme capture is the invitation to listen for moments of observing one's own behavior and actions. What contributed to this and what shifts did you notice? The third one is listening for moments of being open to new perspectives and different ways of thinking, working, and being. What did you see, hear, feel? And the last theme capture, listening for opportunities to develop self-awareness, both personally and in others. What ripple effects were there? What did you see, hear, feel? So the invitation is to pick one of these lenses or your own listening lens. If you want to take a few notes, whether on a notepad or in your Word document or OneNote or whatever, you're welcome just to take some notes while you're listening. And then, or you could practice your oral history listening skills. And then while Raven's sharing their story. And then we'll be using Slido and the chat function. And if there's one or two voices that feel called to and brave, courageous enough to unmute, raise their hand and share back as well. We always love to have people's voices added to the circle. So I'm going to leave this slide up so you can pick a lens, that one maybe that resonates or challenges you. And now we're going to pass it over to Raven to share what you feel called to share this morning around your own journey.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I had some bit of deliberations trying to figure out which story I would share today. And I think I decided on one that seems to be a bit of a traveling story. I first heard it from Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, the author of Women Who Run with the Wolves, and also wrote quite a number of really incredible books. And she herself is mestizo, is mixed indigenous, story-based psychoanalyst. As well as I want to share a quote before I begin from Thomas King. It says, "The truth about stories is that's all we are." So this story is told by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, but it originally comes from our ancestors, the Inuit. And so it's that travel. It's gone down way down south. It's gone over here. It's gone over there. The story is alive in that way. It travels. And so a long time ago, in the far north, there was this very small family, a father and a daughter, who had gotten isolated and separated from their community. And a sickness and a trauma came out of that isolation, that fragmentation. And it festered, and over time it spread. And there was this particular time, the father and the daughter, they were in a boat, and a fight ensued, and the daughter was thrown overboard and died. And she drowned and sunk down to the bottom of this bay where, she decayed. And the seals, the fish, the life, they ate away at her. They picked away till everything was gone, leaving only behind the skeleton. And this is where she stayed, rolling in the tide, rolling in the waves in the dark. Some time passed, and eventually there was a young fisherman out, and he was having trouble catching fish, just couldn't catch anything anywhere. So eventually he decided to paddle to this place where not many people seemed to go, where it seemed that many people did not successfully fish there, so no one really went there. And he cast his line, threw it in the water. And he fished for a while, for some time before he caught something. Oh, it snagged on that line, and it seemed to jerk and pull. And he thought, boy, this is a really big fish. I'm gonna eat really well. He pulled it up and pulled it up this line. And as it came up, you could see it slowly emerged from the water, light, a flash of bones. And it popped way out of the water like that. And it was this skeleton. And oh my gosh, it gave this man a fright. And so he was scared, and he put down that fishing pole, and he grabbed his paddle, and he started paddling. The skeleton that had jumped out of the water seemed to have some aliveness to it. And as he paddled, he looked behind him, and still caught to his fishing line, that skeleton was now chasing him, skipping over the water as he paddled behind him, chasing him. So he paddled even faster, and it seemed as though the skeleton had matched his speed, not realizing it was caught to him. Paddled and paddled, fearful and panicked. He docked his kayak, got up on the water, grabbed his things, and ran to as quick as he could to his little house. Looking behind him again, now the skeleton was on land, chasing him, clacking behind him. Terrified, he ran even faster, and he made it to his little tent. He jumped in and ducked in where it was dark. And for a moment, everything was quiet. It was okay. And so he lit the acrylic, the stone lamp, got that fire going. And just as that little fire started, he seen that skeleton was there in the room with him, sitting in this hut that had been caught up in his fishing line, and so it had been brought inside with him. But now by the firelight, the skeleton didn't look so scary. It was all tangled and old, and um, it almost was pitiful in a way. His heart felt for them, and he realized that this was a person. This had been a person, and he felt that. So he started to untangle his fishing line from the bones. And he started to place the bones in the place that a person's bones would be. And as he did this, he sang a little song. Mm, 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 mm. And he worked and he sang, slowly untangling the bones in the string together. And after a little while, the skeleton was complete there. And now he was tired from all of these events, and he hadn't caught anything, and now it was getting on in the day. And so he thought, gee, I should go just rest now. So he ate a little bit of food, a little bit of water. And he looked at the skeleton and thought, maybe, maybe they're hungry too. Maybe they're thirsty. And a little bit of food in their mouth between the skeleton's teeth. And he laid down. And as he laid down, a tear fell from his eye. And it must have been the dream. It must have been the firelight. But that skeleton, she seemed to bend over and reach towards that tear and scoop it up with her finger and put it to her mouth. And as she did, the food and the water became flesh, skin, nerves. She became whole, person there, remembered back into being. And she joined that man, and they ended up living together after a while. And it's said that she had a profound relationship with the deep, with the ocean, the animals, and that they would never hunger for that. And they lived together like this for some time. So I wanted to share this story with all of you because it's always struck such a deep chord with me. What comes from the deep, how what is so scary often, so surprising, so shocking, that we could run and run and run, and we look behind us and it seems as though it's chasing us. But by the light of our home, by the light of a fire, by the light of love, comes not so scary. And if we take that time to work with it, to sing with it, to be with whatever is, and become life, person. We move from monster to human, from death to life in those ways, through our presence. So I share that story. It felt relevant to me today in the ways of coming ashore, gender-based violence. I believe we live in an economy of belonging, where the Western world has created a capital out of existence, out of humanity, out of belonging, where some person maybe could not be human. Which is so bizarre, so very strange in this world where, we all truly have grown up alongside one another since the very beginning. And to cast the spell of life upon the bones, that which we are afraid of, I think, is a way to call in and to call for responsibility. The continual dehumanization process that happens and that we are part of in the Western world. The antidote, I believe, is among this, to cast life not to further call out, to disconnect, but to sing over those moments, to cry over those moments, to feel over them. And in that, I think our humanity is remembered. And that's my story. Thanks for listening.
And thanks for sharing. Again. That's beautiful. All right. It's good to hear that story again. And I'm curious, kind of this is a opportunity for you to share back what you heard based on the lens that you were listening with. You're welcome to use the Slido, the group chat, or if you would like to be brave and raise your hand, unmute, and share back into the circle, you're welcome to do that as well. One of the things, just hearing like the piece about crying, even just that I find is, oftentimes people will apologize or they'll feel bad about crying. And one of the teachings I receive from elders is that our tears are medicine. And so, they're a gift when we share them. And I'm a little bit of a science nerd. When you shed tears, you're also shedding stress hormones. So if you've been going through any kind of stress, sometimes it's good just to have a cry and yeah.
That's true. And as Inuit and Native people, we also often love laughter as medicine. And now they find the science says laughing and crying both process that same, in that same way, those deeper feelings.
Awesome. And apparently we can, oh dear. Yeah, apparently we learn a lot better when there's humor and laughter too.
It's true.
Cool. So we've got some reflections from people. I'm gonna slide down to the bottom maybe. Light and fire reduce the intensity of fear. Beautiful. Unconditional compassion. Not all is what it seems. Beautiful. And a reminder of compassion for others and ourselves. Beautiful. And I see, Claire, you've raised your hand. You're welcome to speak into the circle if you'd like to.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and thank you so much, Raven, for that story. It was very, it touched me deeply. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, and it made me think about, I think like in the times that we're living in right now, where we see, more and more division, unfortunately. I often think about like how we're losing understanding that's like, if we can't connect with others, it will ultimately detriment us all. And the story made me think about, when you turn and you run from something, especially if it's another human being, you can't be whole. Like you can't be at peace if you run in fear, and you have to turn and face and find the humanity in the other person, or find the life and the other being or the entity that you're struggling with. It has to be that way, to be at peace and to be in harmony with each other.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Claire.
Yeah, that resonates deeply. Thank you.
And spark some more. Yeah, let's get to go through. And yes, Carrie, would love to hear from you too.
I really love the story. That I'm so grateful to have heard it, and it speaks so directly to this day and this intention of helping men be better to women, right? And the whole, like, all domestic violence is not intimate partner violence. And as a person who's been harmed by intimate partner violence, I find it very wholesome and encouraging to have a story like that. That's really of redemption, of love and acceptance, right? It's a beautiful little story and so well told. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carrie. And drop you in love too for your sharing and your experiences. So we've got here too at the beginning, it's a story about women being vulnerable to the violence of men. So true. A positive way to look at life that is so full of compassion, respect, and make use of this in a meaningful way. Being cut off from community creates harm. So true. And that's one of the things I've loved about reclaiming and learning about our own Inuit culture is how much mental health and well-being is integrated into all aspects of our culture. To like we didn't call out, we called in. So in the morning in community, we would all share breakfast. And, we've only been colonized, Inuit have only been colonized for 3 generations. I was alive when my great auntie told me about the first time she went into a cabin and saw a ghost on the wall. It was a mirror, or playing with this white flour, with this white powder, and it was flour. So, our experience, it's been a lot shorter for many of us that compared to First Nations, and the piece, we would have breakfast together in community. That way we make sure everybody has something in their tummy. And then that's when a leader, and we didn't have chiefs, you were a leader by our age. So if you were old, that means you made some good choices to survive in that kind of environment, as well as your actions are aligned with your words, so that integrity. And so a leader would speak to a community at breakfast if there had been any kind of like social things, bumps or things the day before, and reminding us how we need to be in relation to each other to ensure that we didn't ostracize anyone, so that we would become separated from community and not persist. We aren't whole without our human community. We need one another. It's so true. Not sure about that one, but that's okay. Positive way to look at life is that it's so full of compassion, respect, and make use of this in a meaningful way. Reminded me of the movie Castaway, where Tom Hanks' companion was a ball.
That's awesome.
And I love that too, because in Inuit culture, everything has spirit, right? All objects. So that must have been a powerful ball spirit keeping him company. The tasting of tears reminds me of a personal story I lived you. Aw, that's beautiful. People's darkness needs a seat at the table to uncover what's underneath. Yes.
You can't change what you're unwilling to engage with. Bottom line.
Love, connection, compassion is the medicine to be with those that have left us and those that are with us. So true. And some of that truth telling I find can help, it's helped me a lot as a 2nd-generation residential school survivor, to have compassion and understanding for my dad, for the grandpa of my kids and the father of my kids, who were also residential school survivors, of their grandpa. So it's just, really helped me to have that context, to, instead of thinking, oh, they're such, not a good person, they're a bad person, instead of like, oh, these are behaviors that have been inherited from a young age. My dad was only 5 when he was taken away and put into a residential school. And then my grandpa was taken when my dad was at age 7 to an Indian hospital outside of Edmonton, and then left there in an unmarked grave. So, which was the only something we only learned about a few years ago. And it's really helped to understand, like, how did we as Inuit end up in Victoria, BC, that displacement that happened through Indian hospitals, and then my dad deciding, because he didn't get to learn how to hunt. So he thought I better learn to live in a white man's world. So here we are in Victoria. Let's find some of the other comments. Being open to lessons in life. Growth and healing are always possible, especially in connections with each other. It's so true. I find that a lot of healing can happen. Healing can happen, and I've seen counselors, and it can be helpful. And what I found where the most healing has come is being in circle, being with people together to have those conversations and that dialogue.
It's pretty scary sometimes too, like those skeletons, right? To be heard and seen, and oh gosh.
Oh, I love this one. Believing in someone even when they're at their at their lowest. And that one is I'm going to talk a little bit about it later this afternoon in the other version of this workshop. Here we go. Sorry, we're having some technical. I also like to offer patience with myself with technology, because when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't, it's not. Is that piece about loving people when they're not at their best selves, and that's something that I learned. Some of the markings I have, Inuit markings I have, are around being generous, even when you feel like you have nothing to give. And this one comes with a teaching on story of forgiveness. And for me as a parent was a fundamental shift in how I parented. I thought at first I didn't know about residential schools when I was a parent of young kids. I thought I was doing my best, doing what I learned from my parents, and then learning, oh my gosh, actually I'm causing harm. And so shifting my practice. So instead, when my kids weren't doing what I wanted, or making not the best choices, instead of being angry and punishing, removing privilege, instead I would approach them and say, I love you right now as you are, and whoever you become in the future. And then I would offer a small gift from the land, not a Nintendo or anything like that, but a gift of rocks, some sweetgrass, some plant medicine, and just offer that love. And for me, that's been hard and life-changing. I really had to learn how to take care of my own emotions. They're real, they're valid, they're a signal for me to sit and be curious, but they're not for me to put onto my kids. So that has been a life-changing piece. So thanks for that insightful comment there. And it can be so the top one, it can be helpful to sit by the fire with things that make us uncomfortable instead of always running. Yeah, there's power in that.
There really is. Yeah, I really love and often come back to the very, very simple, like fire, water, earth, air, spirit.
Yeah.
You heard. I love your comments here as well, bringing some humor into our space. It's so important, right? Especially working with heavy things, nothing is really contradictory in this world. Everything is connected, and we exist in paradox in the ways as we move from a binary system to non-binary.
Some other comments. We've got a little bit of more time left. Oh, a new response. Okay. To the top. Strength and bravery in the vulnerability is true. There's lots of, and it's a paradigm shift. I remember talking to a white-haired elderly gentleman, and he said in his day and age, to be vulnerable is weakness. So it is a shift for some, that being vulnerable, perhaps one day in the past, it was something as seen as being weak, and now it's being very courageous, and it can help other people to make that journey, which some say could be the biggest journey of all, making that journey from our head to our heart. See any other comments? I don't know. I don't think we've addressed all of them. There's so many great ones, but thank you so much. I'm just gonna do a quick scan, see if we can find family in the oddest of places after being disconnected from your family. So true. The woman was brought back from her isolation and fear with love. It's so beautiful. No one is too far gone for connection and support after a traumatic experience. So true. Yeah, yeah. The smallest light can beat back the darkness. Yeah, that light in the heart of darkness. Wow, I love all of the rich sharing. Thank you so much. Some of the words coming up as key are interesting. Love, fear, respect, connection, and compassion and community. Beautiful. Thank you so much for contributing to that. Yeah, now is the opportunity just to hear back from Raven. How was this experience of sharing the story, one of our Inuit stories, and just hearing back some of the wisdom in the room?
Oh, I love everything you all shared, and just yeah, happy to be here and coexist in this space with all of you for another year. And yeah, kind of thinking about the story in a lot of different ways, the way relationships play out, family dynamics, community dynamics, and as well as all kind of a microcosm within an individual as well. The bay, you know, the deep, the tent, the home. These are all different parts of ourself as well. The skeleton and the man, the father and the daughter, right? And we kind of have that scaling of experiences that reflects as well our Inuit belief of Hila Inua. Hila is air, breath, wind, the force, that the unseen that connects. Inua is like will, consciousness, the mastery. So Hila Inua, but with that understanding that all things have life, have spirit, and are connected to one another. Those are my last little reflections on it all. But yeah, I'm really grateful to just be here with you all and continue in this journey. You know, I'm no expert. I don't think there are any experts, and yet we are all experts in our own way, in that spirit of shared leadership, that we are all family, that we all belong, and we can refuse to participate in the economy of belonging by making it the baseline for our shared existence here, wherever we are. Thank you, Clarina.
Awesome. Thanks, Raven. Before I move into the integration piece, we've got our checkout. I just wanted to, I realized I still, get a little bit nervous, and we'll speed through things. And one of the earlier slides was around, we were coming ashore. So the canoes had landed on the Tsleil-Waututh shore, and we have someone from our canoe who got out of the canoe, stands on the shore, introduces who we are and what our intentions are in coming ashore to the lands, and who we are and how we're going to walk on the lands. And then we received teachings from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation about how to walk on these lands, and then receiving that permission to come ashore. And for me, that was such a profound experience, to be able to receive those teachings and that wisdom. Thanks so much for joining while you can. Yeah, so it was an experience that I wanted to share with each of you, because I don't know how often we get to experience that whereas you might experience it if you are, you are a international diplomat and you're going to another country, and you're gonna learn, like, how do you greet them in their language, to use your right hand or your left hand to shake, or all those kinds of things, those ways to show respect. And so I just wanted to include those images as a window into the possibility and invitation for a paradigm shift in how each of us approach the lands that we're on. All right, so these are more some questions if you want to screenshot them or write them down. If we had more time, we'd maybe do some free flow writing. But I'm just going to plant the seed here and ask these questions out loud, and they're just planting seeds for you to think about in the coming hours, days, and weeks. So here they are. What did I learn about myself in the conversation? What did I learn about how family, friends, colleagues are navigating this space? What could be next steps for integration and implementation? What help do we need, whether that's that internal work, that inside job, or that external, to move forward, to move the work forward? And what is one action I could take in the next days and weeks? And the most important one, how can I create accountability for myself? There's actually a science study came out a number of years ago now where they showed that when you have power without accountability, it can actually cause brain damage. So we're doing ourselves and each other a favor when we invite some space for accountability without blame or shame, just so important. So it's out of love that we can hold each other and ourselves accountable with kindness and compassion, that calling in. Maybe we didn't do so great today, and with that reflection and awareness, we could think about, what can we do the next time?
Give ourselves the permission to begin again, to try again, and give that permission to others too.
Yeah, every day is a new day. Opportunity. And that's one of the things I find about, my pin's on my sweater. The invitation is to wear the pin beyond Moosai Campaign Day, to wear the pin every day. And when I put it on, it's that check-in and reminder to myself about how do I want to show up today? What do I need to show up today in a good way for myself? Do I need to give myself like a little bit of extra love or whatnot, so that I can show up in a good way and hold space for others who might be struggling too. So before we check out and transition out of our intentional space into going to prepare for our walk, it's just an invitation to a reminder for both self-care and community care. So, whether that's like going out in nature, getting yourself a treat, a self-hug, calling your mama, a friend, going to the ocean, playing a song, whatever it is, to nurture your spirit and to practice that community care. And I find sometimes one way, if I'm not doing so great, not feeling good, a little kind of cheat way to feel a bit better is to reach out and offer kindness and care to somebody else. Do a good deed, and it helps lift them up. They feel good, and then I feel a little bit better about myself too. Anything you'd like to share there, Raven?
Yeah, I think that oftentimes self-care and community care can kind of be defanged in a way by the kind of platitudes of the Western world. And that's really where I think we need to call in for advocacy and activism for ourselves and for our others. Sometimes we don't need just a cup of tea. Sometimes we really need to fight on our own behalf, to stand up for ourselves or stand up for others, to be brave and to be kind with our braveness. To understand that our advocacy, our self-advocacy, is a form of love, and we can set that precedent. We're not isolated. Nothing, everything we do matters so much in this universe of interconnection and interdependence. So yeah, just to include that within self and community care is just so important. Is that advocacy and activism.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, as we wrap up, just like to offer a checkout invitation to leave something behind or take something away from our time together today. You're welcome to use the chat. Again, if you want to raise your hand, unmute, and share your voice into the circle as well. We always love that, as well as the Slido function. And while we give people a moment to think on that, is there anything you'd like to leave behind or take away from today?
My gratitude. Yeah, it's gratitude.
Awesome. Claire, yes, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, sorry, I always do this. I just like to feel like we're kind of in the same, that it's not on the computer.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it was really wonderful to see you guys together. Like when you look at the camera, there's so much like warmth and so much gentleness towards us. But when you look at each other, there's this like it's very emotional to watch. Like it's so loving and like so you could like it's so tangible. You could like touch it. It's very special. Yeah. Thank you for loving each other.
Thank you. Always makes it so much richer. So thank you. Oh, so we've got then your next chapter. Wait, so true, so true. Things coming up. Community healing. Every day is a new day. Every day is a choice. Caring about yourself is caring about your community. Ah, yes. Thank you for sharing a story I'll be sitting with for some time, and everyone for sharing your own understanding. Yeah, it makes us so much richer. Create the space for safety and healing. The power of story sharing. It's so powerful. Storytelling. I think that's why we all love movies and Netflix and stuff so much. It's such an ancestral part of us, that storytelling and hearing stories. So creating safe, healthy spaces. The ocean can hold more space for us than a human being can. Yes. And one teaching I received from an elder is when you go to the ocean, you can pick up 4 rocks, and in each rock, put in your fear, your worry, your anger, and then you can throw it in the ocean and do that for each of the rocks. And the ocean will absorb that. We've got recognition and gratitude for all that has been shared by everyone in this space. Yes, thank you. I feel like in this world, we're growing more and more disconnect from each other. So intentionally creating space to share and be vulnerable is very powerful. It is so true. And if you want more of this too, you could go to, we host a Circle Way community every solstice and equinox. We hold a global virtual circle. And if you're interested in that, you can go to circleway.net and to the events page. And love to see you there too, where we have people from all around the world every solstice and equinox join in circle and share. So if you'd like to join that too, you're welcome to join that. We got thank you for sharing. Learned so much from thank you. Help bring to a better place with your teachings. And Raven, your story last year too was so impactful. People still remember that.
All I am is all we are, and all of you are storytellers as well. And I hope one day I can hear some of all of your stories. I know that each of you are so rich in the stories that you are, that you have lived, that you carry. Thank you.
Thank you. We nurture the world and the world holds our lives. Yes. Thank you so much for your storytelling, Raven, and for this shared space. Yeah. Thank you. It's been a journey.